the keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the show. The schedule has been released. We're going to be going through the entire schedule and what's up to everyone that's in chat. I hope you guys are having a really, really good day. I've been waiting for this moment. See who the 49ers are going to be playing. This is going to be absolutely exciting, but I want to give a shout out to everyone that's in chat right now. What's up? Paul, how's it going? Michael, hey, how's it going? Spy Nick Danger in the house. What's up, Brad? BV's in the house as well. So, yeah, I'm going to run through this schedule real quick. We'll just say what all of the games are, and then we'll start talking about the games. The 49ers kick off the season week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be a 10 a.m. Pacific time game on Fox. So an early game if you're on the West Coast, nice for everyone that's on the East Coast. The week 2 game is at the Los Angeles Rams, and it is going to be September 17th at 1:05 p.m. on Fox. Game 3, which was leaked earlier today, is going to be at home against the Giants. The New York Football Giants come to town September 21st at 5:15 p.m. So that game is a Thursday night football game, and that's going to be on Amazon. Week 4, the 49ers play the Arizona Cardinals at home, and they're going to be, that's October 1st at 1:25, so a normal Sunday start time. That's on Fox. Then Sunday Night Football, October 8th, in Week 5, the San Francisco 49ers welcome the Dallas Cowboys to town. Wow, that's going to be a great game. That'll be a lot of fun. And then in Week 6, the 49ers head to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. That's October 15th, and that is a 10 a.m. start time, Pacific time as well. Week 7, they're at the Vikings. So Week 6 and 7 on the road, back-to-back weeks. This is October 23rd. This is a Monday night football game. They're going to be taking on the Minnesota Vikings. 5:15 start time. That's on ESPN. Week 8, Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals come to town. That's October 29th. That's a 1:25 game on CBS. And then in Week 9, the 49ers have a bye week. So a good time for a bye week for the San Francisco 49ers. That's a really good time. Week 10, then they're at the Jaguars. That's November 12th. So another East Coast swing. They go over to the East Coast, and they're going to play the Jaguars. That's at 10 a.m. start time, Pacific time. So far, 3 10 o'clock games already. Then they play the Buccaneers at home. Tampa Bay comes November 19th. That's 1:05 on Fox. Then Thanksgiving, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be playing the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, 5:20 on NBC. That's going to be a fun one. That'll be capping off our Thanksgiving evening. Then the 13th, this one, of course, was confirmed yesterday. Week 13 at the Eagles. That's December 3rd. That's a 1:25 game on Fox. Week 14, the 49ers welcome the Seattle Seahawks to town. That's December 10th, 1:05 game. That's on Fox. Week 15 at the Cardinals. That's December 17th, a 1:05 game on CBS. Then Week 16, the Baltimore Ravens come to town. That is Christmas Day. So the 49ers are playing on Christmas Day at 5:15 p.m. That game is going to be on ABC. So the 49ers playing on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year. Week 17, Christmas Eve, the 49ers are at the Washington Commanders. That's another 10 a.m. start time. That's on Fox. And then Week 18 versus the Rams. That'll be at home. So the 49ers will finish up against Los Angeles Rams at Levi Stadium. But the time and everything as of now is to be determined. So here we go. The 49ers schedule is officially out. And what's up? We've welcomed more people to chat. How's it going? What's up, Mr. Corey? What's up, Jay Ellie? How's it going? So, Brad Jones says week 1, 3 a.m. start time down under. I mean, that is absolutely crazy that's what's going to be the case. So the 49ers schedule's out, and I think there's some interesting games here. One thing I did notice is there's a lot of 10 a.m. start times. I wonder if that's going to throw, the 49ers body clocks off a little bit, something to pay attention to as we kind of see how their schedule is going to lay out. So their preseason schedule, they're playing the first preseason game they're at Las Vegas against the Raiders. Then in week 2, they're versus the Broncos at home. Usually between week 1 and week 2 of the preseason is when they do the joint practices. With the Broncos coming to town, I wonder if that'll be the case or if it will be with the Chargers again, who are in week 3. So very interesting about everyone. What's up, David Campbell? How's it going? So the primetime football games, I think, are the ones that everyone, kind of cares about the most. And the 49ers definitely have a full docket of those. The first one is week 3 against the New York Football Giants. That's Thursday Night Football on Amazon. Then week 5 against the Dallas Cowboys. That's at home. So both of those games are home games as far as primetime. Then they're at the Vikings for a Monday night game on October 23rd. That's week 7. Those are the first 3 primetime games. The next one will be on Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, at the Seahawks. That one's on NBC. And then the 5th primetime game is versus the Ravens. And that is going to be on ABC, and that's on Christmas Day. So the 5 games there. David Campbell says maybe one of those 10 a.m. games will be flexed. It's entirely possible that these games can be flexed and that the early start times, could change. I think early on in the season, not likely. So I would say week 1, Steelers, week 6, Browns. Those are definitely going to be 10 a.m. Pacific start time. I think when you start thinking about flex, will kind of be when you get to the Jaguars in week 10, potentially, depending on how the Jag season is going. And then at the Commanders for New Year's Eve. I think those are 2 possibilities to be flexed depending on how the opponent's playing. So it is a possibility that could happen. But boy, it's a little bit interesting. It's a little bit interesting, the schedule. I think it shows that the 49ers were going to have a lot of travel. It came out that they were going to have 29,000 hours miles of travel, which is crazy ridiculous. So that was always going to be, something they were going to have to overcome. And I seen that the Seahawks were dealing with the same sort of thing. So this wasn't something that was going to be difficult or not, like the 49ers were not understanding what was coming their way. They definitely were. And the schedule's kind of fun. I like playing Pittsburgh early. This kind of reminds me of 2019 when the 49ers played Pittsburgh in week 2. At the Rams, depending on the 49ers normally have success against the Rams, but I kind of like that the first 4 games are more easing in. I think the New York Giants game is going to be difficult, but it's at home and it's in prime time on a Thursday night. They have to travel 3,000 miles, the Giants do, to come play the 49ers. I think that's something interesting to remember as they're coming all the way across to play on a Thursday night. And then the 49ers kind of get that little bit of a bye week, with the 10 off days before they play the Arizona Cardinals at home. So the 49ers have a stretch there. They start 2 on the road, but then they're home versus the Giants, home versus the Cardinals, home versus the Cowboys. So that's really good. And they have a break between, once they play the Giants, they have a lot of preparation time before they play the Cardinals. And then they have an extra preparation day when they play the that'll be a Sunday game too. So they'll be playing the Cowboys on Sunday night. But it's kind of a nice homestand. At Browns, at Vikings, kind of tough, but then they play the Bengals at home, then a bye week. So it's very interesting. What's up, Twisted Clown? It says, schedule looking pretty easy. I think when you're looking at teams, and thanks so much for the super chat, Twisted Clown, I really appreciate it. I think when you're looking at the schedule, I think, you can definitely find wins for the 49ers because the game against the Steelers is early on in the season. It's a young quarterback. They're still a team that's rebuilding. They do have a tremendous amount of weapons, but with the 49ers, question marks at quarterback, kind of the slow start to seasons that they normally have, starting against a couple of teams that they could, have the ability to kind of get their legs underneath them, I think is nice. Steelers being one of those teams, and then the Rams at LA. Early trip to LA, but LA is definitely not the same team that we've seen before. And what's up, Gary? How's it going? Brad Jones says positive about the 10 a.m. starts. Week 1 is week 1, so no one really beat up. Another is after the bye week. Those are our positives. So yeah, if you're looking at it, you're definitely taking a look at the week 1, right? Your body clock is probably not set. You could go early, make sure you're set and ready to play at 10 o'clock. You could practice there. The Browns one in week 6 is the one that's going to be interesting there. With the 49ers playing at Browns, at Vikings, that's probably a possibility the 49ers stay out there, especially with Youngstown so close. I wouldn't be surprised to see the 49ers stay in Youngstown for the game between Cleveland and Minnesota. We'll see if that happens. But you're right. The one coming out of the bye as well, they should be well equipped to handle a 10 a.m. start time. So those are positives. Nice pickup on that, Brad, because those are definitely, some things that you need to find, these little areas that help you with these types of games. Michael says, bottom line, we have to win the games that we're supposed to win. No 3-4 start. I couldn't agree more. BB50 said, I heard yesterday the 49ers are number 2 in miles traveled this year. That is correct. They're going to travel over 29,000 miles this season. The Seahawks being the number 1 at over 30,000 this season. So travel is definitely on the horizon for the 49ers as far as schedule. I do think the schedule in some areas really work out well for them. Jelly says, when is the bye week? It is week 9. So almost exactly the same time it was last year. Last year, the bye week fell, kind of the November 5th, November 6th weekend. It's kind of coming around the same time this year. They're playing the Bengals in week 8 on October 29th, and then they're having their bye week again. And then the next game is on November 12th. So it's coming in that same area they had this year. I think it breaks up the season kind of nice right there in the middle. A week 9, week 10 bye week is really good when you're playing 17 games. So I think that really works out for the 49ers. Mr. Corey says, nobody is easy. Remember Chicago in week 1 last season. I don't think it's about being easy, but I think it is about playing teams where you can kind of get your footing. You didn't want to start out the season having to go against Philadelphia or, having to roll against, one of these other teams that you have on the schedule that are probably going to be a little bit tougher, maybe even a Baltimore. If you can get a game against a team where, you figure you can somewhat get your footing as you're trying to get your offense in line. I think you never hit the ground running at full speed. Usually there's areas of your offense you're still working on timing, getting things in order. And I think defensively you're still working on communication, because even though you've simulated everything in practice, you've simulated through the preseason, getting out there and doing it in week 1 and thinking there's not going to be hiccups or are not little things that you're working on, or the timing's going to be a little bit off on a couple of things. It just happens. So having teams that maybe aren't the very best in the league it allows you to have a couple of those mistakes and still be able to be competitive in that football game. I think one of the things with Chicago to remember is there was a monsoon. So hopefully there's not a snowstorm or something like that in Pittsburgh. It is good news they're going to Pittsburgh that early and not when it's going to be extremely cold later in the season. I think you can see a couple of dates on the schedule where it's going to be somewhat cold. I think week 6, October 15th against the Browns, that could be a cold game for the 49ers and something that, the element they'll have to deal with. Philadelphia in week 13, a cold element they'll have to deal with. So those are things. And then, of course, New Year's Eve against the Commanders. So a few weather games the 49ers would have to deal with, but they have quarterbacks that are well equipped for it. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, they can both play in the conditions. I'm sure at this point, Sam Darnold, after being in New York, understands how to deal with weather as well. So I think those are a few things to remember. Brad says that week 12 to week 14 stretch could decide the division and who gets the number 1 seed. So yeah, week 12, they're at the Seahawks, and that is on Thanksgiving. Then at the Eagles, and then against the Seahawks again. So you're right. They have 3 big games, 2 of those involving the Seahawks all in a row. And you're right, and I think it's important for the 49ers to probably get that first one against the Seahawks and start that stretch off. So that's what what Mr. Corey was saying and others were saying. You can't afford, and I think it was Michael that said you can't afford to have those situations where you go 3-4 early in the season. You need to make sure you win the football games you're supposed to win. And in this case, the 49ers, need to win that stretch. And if they do, if they go 2-1 in that situation and the one loss is the Eagles, or even if one of those losses the Seahawks, more than likely the 49ers are sitting in a really good spot, not only to win the division, but potentially get home field advantage. So you're right. That stretch is going to be absolutely huge for the 49ers for sure. Let's see. Jay Ellie says, which games are you hitting up? And I don't know. I actually didn't go to a game at all last year, and I haven't been in a little while. So it's something I'd have to talk about. But I mean, there's some pretty good games on here and some matchups I wouldn't mind seeing. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult with some of the games being on holidays, to get out there. But I'll do my best to see if I can make it out to a game. I think it could be a lot of fun for sure. Gary says 17-0. Did you expect anything else from me? Absolutely not. That's exactly what I want to see. And My Six Lee says same record as last year and winning the Super Bowl. So 13-4 would be an absolute, great year. And what's up, SG? How's it going? I think that's entirely possible. I haven't really went through, and picked the games. I always like to go and look. I like to look at time of game. I like to look also who the team had played the week before, what their travel is like. But I wouldn't argue if you said 13-4. Who knows? That could definitely be a possibility. We do know the 49ers have one of the best rosters in the entire NFL, and barring injury, they're going to be favored in a lot of the games that they play. Definitely more than being underdogs. That's for sure. Brad says, but the Browns game won't be freezing. Hopefully not. I don't know. I have never been to Cleveland. I don't know exactly Cleveland's weather, but October 15th, I think, is when you start getting into the cold time. But you're right. It's not November. It's not December. So that should be good news for the 49ers. And I'm hoping that, it continues to be, a good situation. I hope it's nice weather. I hope the 49ers never have to deal with weather the entire season, that it's just clear. No rain, no snow. Let's just make it a nice, smooth, game time for the 49ers. Forkdall, how's it going? This is 100% ad. That's why college teams schedule small schools at the start of the season. You want to ease into the season, so to speak. Oh, it's entirely true. That was one of the things when I coached early on in the season. If you had a big matchup, you ran the risk of losing a football game. And I think that's tough. To lose one early because maybe, something's just not clicking. Of course, you'll work it through. By the time you get about 5-6 games in the season, you're definitely hitting on all cylinders. And you want to kind of continue that through the rest of the season. But that's when you kind of see teams take off, and good teams like the 49ers win 12 in a row because they hit that stretch where they're just clicking. And even if pieces are coming in and out, you can still continue that as long as you keep most of your players intact. You get coaches working together. There can be a real symmetry with it, and when you do, it can be big time winning for your team. So, yeah, exactly. That's why they do schedule those teams early on to make sure they work out kinks, get comfortable, take some opportunities to take a look at other players. It can be big time in college for sure. PV50 says, "Damn, man, do the 49ers have the toughest schedule or what?" Really? No give me's. Actually, the 49ers schedule is ranked 15th toughest in the NFL. So they're almost right in the middle. 16 would be right in the middle as far as toughest schedule. So the 49ers actually have middle of the road schedule. Considering the 49ers finished first in their division and one of the top teams in the playoffs, that's a very favorable schedule. Of course, things change because these teams are not the same as they were last year. So looking at them in the same way is tough to do. The Pittsburgh Steelers have picked up extra players for week one. They're definitely better. They have more wide receivers. Kenny Pickett will be coming into a second season. They have Najee Harris and they have TJ Watt, and he's going to be healthy to start the season. So it's definitely not an easy football game, but as you go through the season, just like last year with the New York Football Giants, they showed up. But before the season, I bet a lot of people thought those were going to be give-me. So the same thing goes for this. There will be some teams on the 49ers schedule right now we look as tough games, and those games will end up being a lot easier. And then there's games on this schedule that we think are going to be absolutely easy, or they'll be easy or tough and then easy. I think I got myself all backed up on that, but you got to let it play out. And, there are definitely games you got to make sure you win. I think you got to take advantage of, down and out teams like the Rams who are trying desperately to rebuild, and they've moved a lot of pieces around, but they're still stuck in cap purgatory. You have to win that. You need to win games against the Arizona Cardinals because those are division games, yet they are very winnable games, so you need to make sure you win those as well. And then you got Kirk Cousins in primetime. You can't let him win in primetime, so it's definitely important to win those games, but just like every season, the most important thing, win divisional matchups. If you win the divisional matchups, you have a great chance of winning your division, and that's what's important. Brad says Giants at Cardinals before Thursday night game against us. Okay, so they're not going to be traveling as far, so that definitely changes things. That's why I like going through the schedule. So Brad does the legwork. Is they're probably going to stay out here. They'll probably play at the Cardinals and then stay out here for the Thursday night football game. So that definitely gives a little bit of help to the Giants, as it's not as difficult with them not traveling 3,000 miles to play Thursday night football. So those things definitely, make sense for sure. SG says, I love your background, Ant. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And Mr. Corey says, I'm 3 hours away from Cleveland. The weather in Ohio is iffy in October. Yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about. You just don't know what you're going to get. Hopefully we don't get any blizzards or anything like that, but you just never know. Even really super cold weather can affect your hands, can affect quarterbacks, can affect your lungs, depending on what it looks like. We've seen, teams play in some brutal conditions, but we'll hope that it's a nice day. Maybe it's in the 50s or 60s, probably. And, let's hope for low 50s, and let's hope it's a nice day in Cleveland and the 49ers can go there and have a good time, playing in that matchup. I think that would be really good for the 49ers. And that is a winnable football game as long as you go out there and execute what you need to do, defeating these teams that you're supposed to beat. And sometimes it's difficult to defeat these teams that, are right there that you're supposed to beat, but you got to do it, and I think the 49ers have some favorable matchups, definitely, as I'm looking at this schedule. I think, there are some games that are definitely more difficult. Anytime you have to travel to Seattle, it's difficult. I think their team has gotten a lot better. The fact that it's going to be on Thanksgiving on Thursday Night Football means it's a short week. The 49ers have definitely been playing against teams and playing against Seattle on Thursday Night Football over the last several years. So that won't be too different. It is a short trip. So the trip itself is not the problem. I think it's just the magnitude of playing Seattle on Thursday Night Football on Thanksgiving that's going to be interesting. I think that's one of the games that stands out. And then, of course, going the next week playing the Eagles, depending on how the Eagles season is going. But if they're rolling like they were last year, those two games are pivotal. And it's one of those, if the 49ers walk away with 2 wins in week 12 and week 13, I would think that the 49ers are probably, entertaining the number 1 seed, because when it comes to, playing in the NFC, the competition is kind of all over the place. Your teams that are up there as far as upper echelon, New York Football Giants made a huge jump last year. Dallas Cowboys. I think you got to throw Seattle in there now with their improvements to the draft and free agency, and then the Philadelphia Eagles. They're all teams that potentially can take that next step, and be thorns in the side of the San Francisco 49ers. Brad says Bengals also off the bye to face us, and we off a short week from Monday Night Football against the Vikings. Yeah, so there you go. It's coming off a short week, and the Bengals are coming off a bye. Yeah, those make all those games tougher. So that's why you really have to look at the schedule of opposing teams and see how it works out and how much more difficult it makes it for the San Francisco 49ers when they're playing. Sometimes on face value, you could go through and you could just be like, win, 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 win. But, knowing circumstance behind it and how some of these teams are traveling, it can definitely change opinions, make games tougher. you do have to, you still have to play the game on the field, but those little advantages can go a long way to helping one team a little bit, give them a little bit of an advantage or at least eliminate a disadvantage. Brad Jones says, and Sunday Night Football for week 1 is Cowboys at Giants. Yeah, I mean, it kind of sells itself. I could get it. NBC, they love putting the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. It always equals ratings. So that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm sure the NFL is trying to get it all kicked off to a big start. That's why the Monday Night Football game of the Jets versus Buffalo as well on September 11th. They're looking for ratings early on in the season. Mr. Corey says, me and my cousin, who lives in a suburb of Cleveland and is a Browns fan, plan on going to that game. I hate that they have a bye the week before while we play Dallas on Sunday night the week before. Yeah, there you go, right? Now they're going to be coming off a bye as well. It's interesting. I'm curious to see all those games that these teams are playing playing San Francisco. Last year, the San Francisco 49ers, if they played you, the next week you lost the football game. So it's interesting to see how the league scheduled it and how many times these teams are going to be coming off buys or coming off long weeks before they play the 49ers. David Campbell says, screw the Hawks. I'm with you. Yeah. I want to win all the games against the Seahawks always. Not a fan of the Seahawks. I'm not a fan of their coach. I just think that right now they're definitely rebuilding in a way that they're going to be competitive this year, but I'm with you. Let's beat them every time. Screw those guys. Brad says, and the Cowboys are home against the Patriots in week 4 before the match against us. So, I mean, you're seeing it, Brad. You're seeing kind of how the schedule plays out and how the different things work out with some of the matchups prehand. And sometimes these teams have early or easy matchups or travel that's, not too difficult. That make these games pretty even though the 49ers will have home field advantage or are not traveling very far. Sometimes those things come out, and it's definitely interesting the way they go about it. And the league, they try to do their best, but it's definitely one of those things that's not a perfect science. And some years it really works out in your favor, and then some years it doesn't, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So just from the ones that you've read so far, it's going to be interesting how that ends up playing out. BB50 says, Ant, has Larry Krueger reached out to you to appear on his podcast? You would be great. I have not talked to Larry at all. I have listened to him, sometimes he does a good job. I think Larry's a nice guy, but no, he hasn't reached out to me. If he reached out to me, I would love to go on with Larry. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'm not opposed to going on anyone's show and talking 49ers football. So anyone that reaches out to me, I'm more than happy to engage with them and go on their show or do whatever. It's just, yeah, I mean, I'm all for working with everyone. I think everyone does a good job, and I'm always down to talk 49ers football, especially with people that are into it fully and have really good opinions, whether I agree with their opinions or not, depending on who it is. Why not talk about it? I think it's good to have conversations. Michael says, I just need us to put up 50 points against the Cowgirls and blow them out, and I'm good. Yeah, the 49ers offense, I think it's going to be one of the most interesting things because they have all the weapons, and you've seen Christian McCaffrey really take off last year once he started feeling comfortable within the offense. And Kyle Shanahan felt comfortable with moving him around. And you've seen the offense kind of transform into a real weapon as far as points. And they started making a lot of plays. They averaged over 7 points more just from the addition of Christian McCaffrey. But I think the question is who's going to be at quarterback and how that offense is going to continue to evolve. I mean, with Brock Purdy at the helm, we know what the offense looked like. In a limited capacity, we knew what it looked like with Jimmy Garoppolo. But we don't know what the offense would look like with Trey Lance at the helm, at least with this cast of characters. There's a few that have changed here or there, or Sam Darnold for that. So that's one of the most interesting things as we come into training camp, how exactly the 49ers quarterbacks will mold into this offense that definitely evolved from being middle-of-the-road offense to being one of the top 5 points scored in the entire NFL. I think that says a lot about what Christian McCaffrey's addition is. And now that he's even more familiar with the offense, and Kyle has had a full season to come up with even more schemes and ways to get matchups that he likes, it could be even a bigger season. So I would love for them to put up 50 against the Cowboys. I think that would be absolutely insane. Yeah, I would love it. What's up, Bound? How's it going? Hope you're having a good one. Brad says, rough for the Ravens. The game before Christmas Day against us, their Sunday night football against the Jags. There you go. I mean, so I guess it works both ways, right? The advantages and disadvantages, Brad. Some of them are not in the 49ers, direction. Some of them are. So if you're just joining, the 49ers are week 1 at the Steelers, week 2 at the Rams, week 3 at home versus the Giants, week 4 at home versus the Cardinals, week 5 at home versus the Cowboys, week 6 at the Browns, week 7 at the Vikings, week 8 at home versus the Bengals, then the bye week at the beginning of November, week 10 at the Jaguars, week 11 at home versus the Buccaneers, week 12 at the Seahawks. That's on Thanksgiving night. Then on week 13, they're at the Eagles. That's a Sunday game. Week 14, they're home versus Seahawks. Week 15 at the Cardinals. Week 16, Christmas Day, at home versus the Ravens. Week 17 on New Year's Eve at the Commanders. And then week 18, the date yet to be determined, whether that'll be a Saturday or a Sunday, versus the Los Angeles Rams at home. Brad Jones. Oh, yeah, Brad was saying that. Larry says, Larry, I really like this guy, Kruger. I mean, Larry gets a lot of people watching. He's definitely an entertaining individual. He has a lot of, good people that come on. I like Vish. I like Jordan Elliott. Those guys are definitely two of my favorite that, I've ever had any interaction with. Jordan, we had him on the show last year, and then I got to see him a lot at training camp. He's a really nice guy. So, yeah, those guys are really cool guys, and Larry uses them a lot, and I'm glad that he does because they are smart individuals who understand a lot about 49ers football. So, yeah, this is one of those things where the schedule has finally come out. So now we can start doing all of our how many games are the 49ers going to win. I'm sure those types of things are going to start going out there. Everyone's going to be excited to talk, who the 49ers are going to, how many games the 49ers are going to play, and who they're going to play against, and who they're going to win against. I think those things are all coming your way. So it's an exciting time. And the 49ers schedule, it looks like it's gonna be pretty good for the 49ers. No hate coming from me, no egregious acts by the NFL. I think they did a pretty good job of coming up with the schedule. There's some things I like. I got to wrap my head around all the holiday games. But other than that, I think it's a pretty good schedule, and I'm good with it. But I'm going to check out now. I hope you guys all have a good one. Have a good night. We'll be talking more schedule, I'm sure, in the next few days as I go through and start picking the games, and we'll have some fun with it. But until then, everybody stay safe, and remember the right way is always the 49ers way.